Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart. Let's talk about Warhammer Quest Darkwater miniatures and how they may be used in Warhammer the Old World. Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems, and offer custom items to suit your club, your event, or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Check out the link in the video description. At time of recording this video, Darkwater has been on pre-order for about a week and a half. And there's something quite different to previous releases of this game. And by previous releases, I mean the modern day iterations, your Blackstone Fortress, your Silver Tower. And that is, it's still in stock. Some of the previous editions have had a bit of a problem with the FOMO label. They've gone out of stock in less than 5 minutes and people have been very frustrated, pretty angry. But this time round, you can still buy it on Games Workshop. You can still get it from third-party retailers and with the discounts that they apply as well, which means it's quite an expensive set and can be picked up in the UK for around £128, I think, for the sort of standard discount price at some of the biggest retailers, and some have even offered it as low as 120. I'm not saying that's cheap, but it's available, and because of that I think people are buying it for the miniatures, which is partly what this video is about. Now if you're interested in a full review of the game, you can catch a video I've done here. I've already done a painting tutorial for one of the miniatures as well, and you can also catch that here, but I'm not here to kind of plug my previous videos. I'm here to talk about the miniatures. Because the game is still readily available, I think the miniatures are going to be something we see quite a lot. There's not going to have the same rarity that the other ones did, and even then you could still pick up those miniatures. We're going to have box splitters on eBay selling these, but maybe not at quite the crazy prices they would have been had the game sold out in 5 minutes flat. And you can, as I say, you can still buy the box if you want to as well. So I think we're going to be seeing these miniatures used on the table in Warhammer the Old World on square bases. Well, some of them anyway. Not all of them are quite appropriate in my opinion, but we'll talk about that in a little bit in the video as well. And I've definitely had plenty of comments in those 2 videos that I've already made about I bet it looks great on a square base, I'm going to put mine on square bases, and so on and so on. And actually now looking back at it, you could probably stick them all on square bases, play the game without any hindrance at all, because the hexes are fairly large, and then you could use them for your games of Warhammer the Old World. So I think it could be up to you, at least for quite a lot of the miniatures. And I may go back and rebase some of mine, but that's, again, not really the subject of this video. So what I intend to do with this video is to go through the miniatures in the set, maybe make some suggestions of things you could use them for, if it's not immediately apparent, check out their base sizes and see how they correspond with the Warhammer the Old World base sizes. I'll be sitting with some bases on my desk and physically working out whether they would fit, just in case you're not able to do that yourselves. It might help you planning if you're thinking of picking this box up just for the miniatures. I'm sure some people definitely will. So let's get to it. So I've got a handful of square bases in plenty of different sizes, including some I don't need. I've got all the miniatures for the set out on the desk, and I've also got some handy reading material to check base sizes and maybe give myself some inspiration of what we may use these miniatures for. Let's start off with the 2 that probably won't get as much use. We have Kelthanor the Forest Prince, which is very non-Old World. I probably wouldn't use this miniature at all. It will fit on a 30x60 for anyone that's interested, but I can't really see how you'd want to use this in your elven armies really. We also have Drasher Vaughn, the Rampaging Beast. Now, it's not really a race that you see in Warhammer the Old World at all. Maybe if you were doing something with roleplay, you'd be able to make up a character. Now, he will fit on a 30mm base, he will fit on a 40, and if you really wanted to, of course, he could fit on a 50mm square as well. And maybe that's where you could start thinking about using him as some kind of unit filler. I think he would look a little bit cool in the centre of a unit of marauders. He's got that chaosy look, so that could be fun. And he's not far off ogre size as well, so maybe you could use him as an Imperial ogre if you're using lots of alternative miniatures to sort of spread around and give a different feel to your army, but especially if you're looking at Renegade Crowns kind of lists. Next up we have Drolf Ironhead, the Grizzled Explorer. Of course he's a dwarf, and he's a dwarfish looking dwarf. Yes, he's got some slightly Warcraftian themes to him, but he looks like a dwarf ranger. And scale wise, I picked 2 miniatures there, so the newer plastic white dwarf fits quite well with that, and he's obviously a little bit larger than the older metal dwarves, but it works. He's not really any different to the scale of the modern day dwarves in Warhammer the Old World. Knock yourself out, have fun with him. Edmark, Valorian and Brentelist are your human knight type creatures, and they both fit no problems at all on your 25mm square. Edmark Valorian there, it's got a little bit of a scenic base, a tactical rock that might need trimming at the edges, but you've got no problems at all with Brentelist, but either way you'll be able to get them on a 25mm square. In terms of the aesthetics, Brentelist is much easier to make look old worldish. And definitely fits in scale wise with the Bretonnian miniatures. That's obviously one of the larger foot knights, one of the new ones. They are pretty chunky. And Edmark Valorian will also easily be Bretonnian, but could also be Empire-ish as well. Scale wise, no issues. I would probably do something about the shield. It is all moulded into, it needs filing off. It looks very Age of Sigmar-esque, whereas, as I said, Brentelist, not so many issues at all there. Both great miniatures. I think they'll be really nice in Renegade Crown type lists. I think you can see Edmark Valorian there next to an Empire General, and I think you could easily use them as Empire as well, whereas Brentelist, more Bretonnian things. Perfect for your renegades, that kind of thing. That's where I would be using them if it were me. We have Inara Scion, and we have Jacobus Vine, and the little doggo here, which is basically a familiar, and that's what you'd use it as. I can't imagine you using it as anything else. That obviously fits on a 25mm square because it's on a 20mm round, but both of these miniatures will comfortably fit on a 25mm square as well, and I'm sure no one's surprised by that. We get the latest, or one of the latest resin Bretonnian damsels there, and you can already see the scale is almost identical for Inara Scion. The Jacobus Vine miniature seems a little bit smaller, but again, humans differ in size, and he would be absolutely fine as well. We compare him there with the new Empire Resin Wizard, very, very similar, if a little bit slighter in body size. Same with Inara Scion as well. So I think these are both great characters. I think Inara Scion makes more of a damsel-esque kind of miniature, could be good as a sort of a hedge wizardy kind of things as well. But again, multiple different uses for these magic users. The Jacobus Vine is clearly more Empire style wizard, but again, your Renegade Crowns list, your Outcast Wizards, they will be perfect options for those. You kind of use them as you want. They might have a little bit of iconography that you want to remove from the Age of Sigmar-esqueness of them, but that's easily done. I think both those miniatures are great, and they're ones I'd be looking to pick up myself over some of the other ones in this set. That's the end of the good miniatures. I'm sure there's not a lot of surprises there. They're the kind of things that everyone was expecting. Yes, we have a couple of knights. One looks a bit more Empire, one looks a bit more Bretonnian, but both could easily be changed between the two. And again, perfect Renegade. All of these would be great in your Renegade Crowns lists or in your Exiles Bretonnian lists as well. Really, really good for all the humans. The dwarf is a dwarf, and I'm sure he'll be fun to use as an extra character in some people's armies, especially if you like plastic miniatures and want to avoid some of the older metal miniatures. Really, really cool, and I can't see any issues with most of those, apart from those two weird ones we mentioned at the beginning. If you've got uses for those, please let me know in the comments. Now on to the evil miniatures, and when we're talking about weird, we're talking about the Maya Kelpies. These are a little odd. Now, they are small enough that they're going to fit on any kind of base you want, really. They are a little strange. I've also got the objectives here as well, and that's one of the uses for these if you really wanted to. If you're having a Nurgle themed Chaos army, these would be great to have as objectives. We need objectives in a game of Warhammer the Old World. Fantastic. The other thing that the Maya Kelpies will be nice as is familiars as well. So even if you bought this set and wanted a certain chunk of the miniatures, I think you can make use of some of those. You probably don't need all of them as familiars. How many familiars could you possibly need? But they have some use. So even the things you'd think on the offset, I probably won't use all of this, you can actually find use for them. These are the Pox Wretches, and I'd say they have loads and loads of uses, but also few, really depending on how far you want to stretch things. They're not particularly Warhammer the Old World. However, they would make really good cultist style humans, so maybe they're good in games of Mordheim or something like that. Or if you just want a really different themed army, you could have a Renegade Crowns list that you've given it a bit of an evil cultist type theme, and maybe they're under the guise of Chaos Gods or a Necromancer or something like that. It's the story you make up, even if the rules don't completely support it. So theme-wise, you can definitely find uses for them, but there aren't many that just jump out. Yes, they'll definitely use them for. However, they do fit on 25s and they don't look too bad. They also fit on 30s, but might be a slightly lost for them. So you could use them as Marauders, and they're looking thin and sickly because the curse of Nurgle has maybe not given them as much strength and maybe withered them away. So you could use them for things that don't excite me quite as much as some of the miniatures in this set, that it's just a straight up, yes, this is great, they'll be perfect. But of course, there's some uses on them. They are fantasy, kind of pretty grim, are human, depending on your concept of them. But let me know in the comments if you've got any really great ideas. But they can work as zombies, they can work as Marauders, they can work as human cultists, that kind of thing. And here we have Shaman Foulhoof. Fits on a 25 or a 30. You can put them on either in Warhammer the Old World. I do wonder whether they'll get the same treatment as Marauders if new miniatures come out and suddenly everything has to be on 30s. Here he is, next to Crowmore as well. Scale wise, not too bad at all. Really nice miniature as well. So if you're looking for another shaman for your Warhammer the Old World Beasts armies, then this one is going to be popular. I think I'm very tempted to make sure that I stick this one on a square so I can use him as well, even though I've already got a couple of shaman miniatures. Yeah, I like him. He matches the scale of all the others. You can see no problems at all there, and I think he's going to go down very well. With all that in mind, I'm sure it's no surprise whatsoever that the Pestigors will happily fit on both the 25s, and I also put them on the 30mm base as well there. That way, you didn't just want to use them as gauze. You can see that it can be used as warped gauze, or they can be used as Bestigors, and maybe even survive a future base size change if that's something we might see in the future. I don't know that's going to happen, but after what we saw with the Marauders, it's always possible. But again, these are great miniatures. There aren't that many newer miniatures that you can use as regular Beastman troops, or at least generally regular Beastman troops, and these give you some options. You can get 8 different sort of poses really as well, by the way you build them. I think these will be popular, and if you can get them cheap enough, I think we might see a few of them on the tabletop in Warhammer the Old World Armies. I'm very tempted to try and pick up some more myself and paint these up as a unit on 30, so I could choose whether I use them as warped gauze or Bestigors. They look pretty fantastic. Now, which is probably my favourite overall miniatures in the set, we got Morgoth the Cleaver, but also the Blight Templars. They are Chaos Warriors, Nurgle Chaos Warriors, and I think they are awesome. They will fit on 30s, and some of them with their poses you might have to be careful with ranking them up, so you might have to plan that a little bit. If you play Warhammer Fantasy for a number of editions, you'll know that this is the case with a lot of miniatures anyway, so there is a way around it. I'm using the Age of Sigmar miniatures in my army, so they're already a little bit larger than the Warhammer the Old World ones, and I've managed to do it, so it is doable. They are beautiful. If you want a Nurgle Chaos Warrior army, you may well want to pick a few of these up, even if, as I said, you're using them as chosen. And if you look at the range for the Chaos Warriors, I think they are lacking some of these kind of miniatures and these modern day ones. There's a lot of old miniatures when it comes to the characters or the special units and things like your chosen. So these could be a really good option, rather than just using the existing Age of Sigmar Rangers. So I think a lot of people will look at that, even if you're just using them as characters. I love the idea of having one Chaos Warrior leading a mass horde of Marauder warriors, and Morgoth the Cleaver will just look amazing, leading a Marauder force of the Cult of the Carrion Crow, or Nurgle as it would be. I love that thematically, the way that would look. Don't think that's what I'm going to be doing for my own army, but it's still a great way of using these miniatures, and I'm pretty sure we'll see those on square bases. Getting towards the end now, we're onto the sort of slightly larger, more specialist miniatures, Morgoth the Cleaver aside from the set, and I think these have all got potential uses as well. This is Gellus Pust and Belga the Cyst Witch, and they can make some really nice character miniatures if you can get them on the right size basis. Now sadly she will overhang a 30mm square, which is what you'll need ideally to have her as a Chaos Sorcerer, which would just be a brilliant model to do in a Nurgle army. However, with a nice tactical rock and some green stuff skills as if she's slithering over it, you could make it work if you wanted to, and she would be really, really brilliant for that. Of course, she will go on larger bases, and you could use her as a bit of a unit filler or something like that as well. And it's really fun to have those little unit fillers as centerpieces in your army. Maybe make her into some weird baggage or something like that. Gellus Pust will struggle to fit on a 40mm square, but again, I don't think that's a problem, because I think what you really want is him on a 50mm square, because you want to use him as a Demon Prince, or you're going to want to use him as a Chaos Spawn. Both of those would fit quite nicely, as you can see on the 50mm square there, and I think that's where I would be going. What a great idea, again, for a Nurgle themed Chaos Warriors army. He's next to some other miniatures on a 50mm basis, so you get Rat Ogre there, and you've got a Minotaur as well. So you get the idea of scale a little bit. He's not the biggest Demon Prince in the world, but he will work nicely on that 50mm square, and I think that he would make a really nice centerpiece model. Obviously a couple of 40mm ogres there as well, but just to help you out a little bit with that sort of idea of scale. And your final unit, who I nearly forgotten, is the Cankerborn, which are pretty grim and disgusting, and they fit nicely on a 40mm square, which I think is perfect actually, because you're either going to want to use them as Chaos Ogres, or probably even better, Chaos Trolls, but you could easily get away with using them as either. They've got great weapons. I think they would work equally. It really is up to you. Maybe you're going to want more than two that you get in a set, so these are the kind of things you might want to pick up on eBay, and it's definitely something that would tempt me as well. So if you're looking for that Nurgle theme, these could be really, really good. It probably goes without saying that if you're not into Nurgle and Chaos flavoured stuff, then the box probably isn't going to interest you that much. And is it worth buying the whole box to start an army? Probably not. It's going to cost you too much, and you're not really going to fill much of your army, so you may be better off buying it and splitting it. Maybe that's a way of doing it, or just picking up some of the individual models, or looking to shift a lot of it on. So buy the box, keep the few bits you want, and try and make all your money back selling the rest off individually. And I think that would probably work as well. I imagine the components, the card components, won't really sell very well. The book may do, because people will use that for different things. But in terms of the miniatures, those gauze are great. The Pestigores are great, and you can use them as Bestigores, you can use them as Warped Gauze. I haven't checked the prices. If you can get them at a reasonable enough price each that you think it's affordable to build a unit, they are a great option to give you a new style sculpt, something that looks different. And I don't think they brought back the metal Pestigores. Maybe wrong, but they bring something different to your army in terms of availability and a range of miniatures. And that Shaman is great. I imagine that Shaman will sell quite well on eBay for people to use as an alternative plastic Shaman. No problem there at all. When it comes to the Chaos stuff, the Chaos Warriors are amazing. I think they're better used as Chosen, when you won't need so many, so it's not so crazy price for your unit. So that would be a good use for them, but also not just Melgoth the Cleaver, but using the others as characters. You could quite easily be the leaders of your army if you're running a Nurgle Warriors or Chaos army that look great, or like I suggested, use one as your general leading an army of Marauders as well. I think that's pretty cool. When it comes to the kind of the Poxwalker-y type guys, they look a bit dystopian to me, so they would fit with that kind of chaosy cult kind of thing, but that feels more later Warhammer the Old World, not Warhammer the Old World we're in, so the later fantasy, the 2500s, not the period we're in. However, as we move towards the Great War Against Chaos, you might find more towns like that. However, you do what you want with your themes, and maybe you want to build a Renegade Crowns list that's some weird cultist or even a Necromancer, and you might find use for those miniatures. There's always a use for everything if you've got the imagination, so don't let me put you off doing it. You go for it. And in terms of the Demon Prince type miniature, I think that's perfect, as I've already suggested. And same with the Sorcerer, if you can get it on the base properly. What a unique miniature to use as a Sorcerer leading your armies of Marauders. Definitely, I love that theme if you're going for Nurgle. I think that would be really strong. The Cankerborn as Chaos Trolls or Chaos Ogres as well. Really, really good. And I can't imagine they'd be super expensive even as a box split thing compared to buying the metal ones. So you may well find that having a unit of 3 or 4 of those as plastics is affordable and isn't much more than just buying the metal versions that are out there as well, which would be pretty cool if that's the case. I would definitely be interested in using them. I love having plastic miniatures in my army, and it gives you something that's slightly different as well. So the good guys, the character models, they're pretty straightforward. The dwarf is a dwarf, and some people want to use them as a character in their army for sure. When it comes to the magic users, it's really straightforward, the kind of things they fit to. There's enough of one foot in the old fantasy styling there that can be used in Bretonnian or Emperor armies, no problem. And the same with the knights in many ways. The Edmark Valorians may be a little bit AOS-y, but nothing that a sculptor and a file and a little bit of work can't resolve. And I'm sure there'll be some beautiful conversions out there. People are using them as characters in their armies. The absolute best value way of doing it, and something I'm leaning towards now, is sticking them on square bases for your game of Darkwater, having the game and enjoying the game, but also having those miniatures so that you can put them in units in your existing old world armies. If you play those armies, play those factions, that's great. So if you've got your Edmark Valorian, you also have it as your leader of your Renegade Crowns list or something like that, or you've got your Demon Prince, which is also your big baddie in Darkwater. Definitely one of the best ways of doing it, and yeah, really tempted to go and put them on square bases now. Let me know if that's something that you're tempted to do yourself. But that's it, pretty straightforward. We've been talking a little bit about it in the Miniature Realms Discord. I know I have in the comments on my previous videos about what you could do with these miniatures in terms of Warhammer the Old World. I've got all the miniatures sitting next to me. I thought it'd be fun just to do it, less to talk about it and give you some ideas, partly because I know that loads of you now will be putting in the comments below what you're going to use the miniatures for, which ones you like, which ones you don't like, and that will give me some further ideas as well, which is always fun. So please do make sure you put in the comments below which of the miniatures are your favourite, where you've seen them being used in Warhammer the Old World, especially ideas that I haven't thought of. I'm really excited to hear what you think. And while you're doing that, please give the video a like. It really helps the channel be seen by other people. Please do come and join the Discord, as I already mentioned. Check out my Patreon. It's a really great way of supporting me and the channel. I appreciate all my existing patrons for funding me and helping me make videos like this. Please do check out my channel sponsor, Counterattack Bases. But thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.